alongside head football coach Chad Masters. John Edwards with you, and Coach. Last week I joked with you about the fact that you'd gone 3 weeks and scored on the first series. I had said to you I'd be really disappointed if you didn't do it again, but you went out and did it again, and you scored a touchdown right from the jump, and you got out to a quick 7-0 lead.
Yeah, I didn't want to disappoint, so we had to keep the streak going. So I'm definitely not gonna complain that we're doing that. We're not quite so sure how we keep doing that right now, but nonetheless, I think it goes a lot of preparation and kids having confidence what we're doing during the week, and maybe catch a team off guard here or there. But nonetheless, we'll take the points anytime and any way we can get them. And I just been real pleased that offensively our kids have kind of been able to do that a little bit. So again, like every game, we just got to find a little more consistency in there. And I know we hit a lull for a few series in there as they made some adjustments, and then we kind of picked it back up again a little bit later on. So from an offensive standpoint, overall, I was really pleased with what we did. So in that game,
we had talked after we shut the camera off last week, and I had said to you, I feel like our offense is more based around the run like it's been over the last couple of years, but to the numbers you told me we're about even as far as balance. And how do you continue that balance? Like, how difficult is it to continue to balance when you have Cannon, who's doing a great job in the backfield, and also you have your freshman running back who's doing just as well?
Yeah, I think it's just you try to keep teams off balance a little bit, and I think I've never been a big believer in necessarily having to have a 50-50 balance or this or that. I think kind of like old Mike Leach said a while back. He said, Roma works, and so at certain times the run game is helping us out, and other times we got to throw the ball around a little bit based on matchups or based on just trying to keep the defense of the team we're playing a little bit off balance and kind of guessing what we're going to do. I think it's important to be able to do both effectively. The teams we play on our schedule, especially the conference teams, these are some of the best defenses I've ever gone against as a coach. Everyone's got a great defense, everyone's got good athletes on the field, so you have to work really hard. And you just can't simply all the time, unless you're so much superior talent-wise, line up and just say we're going to do this every single time. We've got to be able to have a mix in there and move the ball around. We talk a lot about as offensive staff about trying to move the ball around, move the pocket around, move the run game, attack different points on the field, whether that be vertically or horizontally, run or pass. So I think just the effort of us to find ways to try to get players we know that can make plays, so to say, and to try to build our schemes off of what our kids can do, and at the same time trying to just manipulate a defense a little bit and try to set them up for things, or just try to keep them off balance so they're not just staying a whole bunch of guys in the box to stop a run, or not put anybody in the box and then try to cover the pass. We've got to keep them honest a little bit, and when we've been able to do that as a team, then we've had a lot of success offensively for sure.
I noticed in last week's game and a couple of the other games this season, John Vollmer was going to be a big target for the offense this year, but it's been really tough getting John the football this year because last Friday, SLU High had bracketed him in the front and 2 in the back. I mean, as soon as he gets his hand on the ball, he's dragging 4 or 5 players on his back, but how difficult is to get the ball to a player of his size? He doesn't have the speed as maybe what you would hope, but he's got the heart to drag those players. What do you do to get him the ball more?
Just keep finding ways to do it, and hope the other things pick up. I mean, one thing is if you try to focus on one player, you've got to exploit that with other players, and I think we're starting to find ways to do that. John's a big target, and he's easy to find on the field a lot of times, and he does show that heart and toughness. Usually when he catches the ball, it's very rare does he have one guy bring him down. It's going to take a whole group of them, and I love seeing that out of him. He's not going to break big plays deep or things like that. But what he's going to give you is a good undercover, target for the quarterback to find. And again, trying to keep my balance, be able to stretch him deep, which we were able to do a few times the other night, and at the same time try to work horizontally underneath that to John or other receivers, and then you add your run game into it, and you get a good mixture of things. So, I've been real happy with what John's done, especially after the catch. Whenever it's pretty hard, like you said, he catches the ball and he usually gets descended upon by half a defense pretty fast. But he has shown great heart and toughness and still getting some yards after the catch on that, no matter how hard it is.
Offensively, you guys put up 28 points on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And the offensive line has been a mash unit of late.
Yeah.
And it'll continue to be that way with injury as the season goes along. We have a couple guys banged up this week. What is it that you can encourage from this offensive line to do any more than what they've already done?
I mean, just continue. I still don't feel we've executed the best that we can so far either. They have shown great heart and great effort, and they're doing a great job. And like you said, it's been kind of a rotating group a little bit at times with some injuries. But what that's allowing us to do is build some depth in ways that we weren't quite sure we were going to be able to. At the same time, also, I think we haven't fully lived up our fullest potential, which is a good thing to me. And that's still yet to come. And that's my challenge them every week. Can we execute perfectly this week? Can we do the things we know we have to do? And kind of what we've talked about before, sometimes the difference between us getting another touchdown or another chunk of yardage is simply one block. We just, like I said, the defenses are so good that if we miss one block or we get our head to the left instead of to the right, all of a sudden now we have a 4-yard gain versus a 25-yard gain or maybe something bigger. The play we scored on the first play of the night against SLU was very well blocked. I mean, very well blocked. We got all our angles, all the spots we needed, and it resulted in a touchdown. It doesn't mean every time we do it's going to be that way, but at least it gives us a great positive yardage situation. And so we've really focused with them and the offense in general of getting in favorable down and distance situations, and avoiding the third and long, and using those first two downs to get chunks, whether that be pass or run. So we're sitting there in a 3rd and 4 or less, as opposed to a 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 10, which, we're not so explosive offensively that's a favorable down distance for us. But our offensive line has done a lot of great stuff, I think, to help us with that. And for us, it's just finding the right, getting them kind of building up their confidence and building up, their enthusiasm there, which they've been great at the same time of still preaching the toughness and execution is necessary for us to be successful. And whoever that may be, whatever new guy we have in there, whatever it may be, they've really answered that to a high level, for sure.
Defensively, you guys defensively have gone through moments in which the defense will shut down explosive offenses. It's that same consistency, I guess, for the defense that you're looking to get on both sides of the ball for the offense and defense. In your defense, I almost feel like on every pass play down the field, you have defenders there, and it's either an over pursuit or bad positioning, and over time those things get better.
Yes, I do believe that they are getting better. It's kind of I've looked at it too. Whenever you line up and against a lot of the offenses we're going against, and they've got receivers at 6'3", 6'4", big physical kinds of kids, and we have a secondary that maybe isn't that big.
6 foot.
Yeah, 6 foot. Yeah, about as tall as we get back there.
As tall as you're gonna get.
So we get in those situations times where the ball's pressed deep and it's a one-on-one situation, and we may be not in the right position, or maybe over pursuit a little bit, being a little more over aggressive there, but. They're trying to make those one-on-one plays. And that's a tough spot to be in. It's kind of like being a pitcher in baseball. It's the loneliest position in the world. You're a corner, you're going up against a receiver that's bigger, more athletic than you, and that ball's coming in on both of you all. You've got to figure out something at that point and try to make a play. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. We all remember the ones that don't work out for us, but there's a lot of times our kids were making plays, either by position or on a pass breakup. I mean, it's something I also have to understand too. for us, like, we give up a slant in the goal line for a touchdown. Well, it's understanding as a receiver, if you're already physically outmatched, and you got to make sure your positioning is perfect.
Sure.
And that's a no margin for error that we've got to get used to, and our kids are becoming accustomed to that and starting to really pay attention to those littlest of details, whether it's a certain step a certain way, a certain alignment that takes away something. Those are the things that we're evolving into. And, we have a secondary with very little experience until this year. We have a little more experience up front. But if teams drive the ball on us, we usually play a good defense. It's those explosives we're still giving up right now that we've got to figure out a way to kind of clamp that down a little bit. I mean, we talked about a little bit over 400 yards of offense given up against SLU, and I would say probably, half that offense came on about 4 or 5 plays. Now you can easily say that and just take it away and say, hey, we win the game, but the reality is we didn't make those plays when we needed them. Whether it's 2 safeties running into each other, whether it's, miss jumping on a ball, whether it's just you just got out physicaled on one, it was a combination of all of that. And our kids are fighting, they're playing hard. I mean, I don't question that at any point. From the start to the finish, no matter what the score is, they're playing extremely hard and representing this school and this community very well. It's just, clean up some of those little mistakes. When your margin for error is very small, we got to be near perfect on our execution.
Tall task for you this week. You go over to CBC.
It's just another week in Vianney football.
It's just another week in Vianney football, and CBC's coming off a win last week after taking a loss 2 weeks ago to the Smed on national television. And is the game plan still the same for you guys? I mean, I'm not going to put the pressure on you this week, but
see if we can score in the first series. I don't know.
Let's see if we can do it again. I mean,
we'll see what we can do.
It's been a trend, and honestly, when you see what happens at the beginning of the game, you're giving this team gains hope.
Yeah.
When you do something that explosive within the first few minutes of the game, because I feel like in doing so, you are already putting that opposing team on its heels and saying, "Wow, they just scored on us," and their mindset is they're going to beat us and we're not going to score. But putting them on their heels a little bit gives them some doubt.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I think it's something I've talked to the kids a lot about too. Hey, we have a lot of tradition, a lot of pride in this program. We're still here. Like, we haven't gone anywhere.
Right.
Like we may be, struggling through some things here and there. Maybe the scoreboard doesn't show quite as much as what we have been before. But the bottom line is our kids are still prideful in their play and still compete their tails off. And they're not going to be an easy out. You may beat us, you may put us down, but it's going to take a lot of effort for you to do that. It's not going to be a walk in the park on it. And so that mentality, I think, is very important for our kids. And it does give them a little hope. They got a big, whether it be a defensive stop early in the game, whether it's a scoring on the first series. I think that just gives you confidence in yourself a little bit and allows you to compete that much harder. I'd be interested to see if we don't score in the first series, are we able to still fight and claw and still, maybe do on the second series, or maybe it takes us to the third series. But nonetheless, these are all experiences and opportunities for us to prepare for that week 10 and beyond, which I feel really confident in our team on as we get there, because we have been through a tough schedule. We've been battle tested through this year.
It's a pretty meat grinder of a schedule,
isn't it? Yeah. It's like we joke. I said, but what week would it be if we weren't playing a state-ranked team or a very rich tradition program? I mean, that's just who we are. And when you play here, you have to have the mindset that you can play with anybody. And I think that's a very important thing for our kids to understand, our community to understand, that sometimes it may not always look the prettiest, but the fact that we're getting out there competing our tails off from start to finish with great integrity and great pride, I can't ask for anything more than that from our kids. But the more success you have, obviously, the more confidence you gain. The more confidence you gain, hopefully, the better you play. And that's what we're working on doing. And if we can execute our stuff very clean, with great effort, and we can play as hard as we possibly can, then I think we take a step in the right direction each week.
You're now 2/3 of the way through the schedule. A few weeks left. There's 3 regular season games left. CBC, St. Mary's, and at Edwardsville and senior night. And now that you've gone through a portion of this schedule, is it what you thought it would be when you took the job?
Yeah, to some extent. Like any competitor, you thought you'd be, like maybe the record might be different here or there, but the bottom line is, I knew the schedule was tough, and I knew we were going to be tested week in and week out. What I didn't necessarily realize is how great our kids were going to be in the process and how competitive they were going to be, and they don't seem to get rattled by anything. And a lot of times you'd be sitting there pushing the panic button. You got more losses than wins on your record right now. But these kids just show up every day and they still practice hard. They still try to get better. They compete in every game through injuries. Not feeling the best. And so that part, I think, is if there's a surprise, it's how much they still rally behind each other and this program in general. So I've been really, really happy with that. Very, very pleased with that. And I know that still the best is yet to come with this group. This year and in future years, that Vianney Griffin football is still here. It's still competitive. It's still going to do the things that we need to do to be as good as we can.
And it's not an easily intimidated team either.
It is not. It is not.
A lot of teams have tried this year, and this team has not backed out.
No, they have not. And like I said, that's if there's anything that we might be surprising, because you don't know until you get in that, to see what the inner parts of those kids are made of. And I could not be more proud of this group of young men, of how they approach games and their lives that way. And it's been really amazing to see.
Coach, I appreciate a few minutes. Best of luck tomorrow night against
Thank
CBC.
you very much.
We'll see you next week here as the team plays CBC tonight. Next Friday, they're on the road once again over at St. Mary's.
Go Griffins.